Most people think the hardest part of building an empire is making money, gaining influence, or reaching the top. Machiavelli would warn you about something more basic. Before you build power outside yourself, you must learn to control the person making the decisions. You can gain wealth before you gain discipline. You can command a room while still being controlled by your temper. You can build influence while your own impulses quietly determine what you say and do. And when pressure finally arrives, that weakness can destroy everything faster than any competitor. Most downfalls do not begin with some dramatic attack from the outside. They can begin with one uncontrolled reaction, an insult you could not ignore, a decision made in anger, a moment when pride became more important than calculation. The people Machiavelli studied could possess armies, wealth, authority, and loyal followers, yet still lose everything because they could not manage themselves when circumstances stopped going their way. Self-control does not mean becoming cold or emotionless. It means controlling when and how you respond. You can feel anger without immediately expressing it. You can feel frustration without allowing it to decide your next move. Someone may provoke you, disrespect you, or challenge your authority, but they should not automatically gain control over what you do next. The moment another person's action determines your reaction, you have surrendered part of your power to them. Imagine someone insults you in public. Your instinct is to respond immediately because silence feels like weakness. But an uncontrolled reaction can reveal exactly where your weakness lies. People remember what provokes you. They remember what makes you lose your temper. They may not use that information today, but once they know the button exists, they know how to press it later. This is why the calmest person in the room can sometimes be the strongest. Not because nothing affects them, but because they refuse to let every emotion become an action. They can absorb the moment, evaluate it, and decide whether a response is even necessary. Reaction says, "You did something, so I must respond." Control says, "You did something, now I decide what happens next." That distinction becomes more important as you rise. The more visible you become, the more opportunities people have to test you. Someone will question you. Someone will provoke you. Someone will try to make you angry just to see what happens. If you have not mastered yourself, every one of those moments becomes an opening for someone else to pull your strings. You do not need to answer every insult. You do not need to win every confrontation. Sometimes the strongest response is silence. Sometimes it is a calculated answer. Sometimes it is distance. What matters is that the response comes from your decision, not from someone else's ability to trigger you. Because external power only magnifies what already exists inside you. Discipline can make greater resources more useful, but impulsiveness can make greater resources more dangerous. If you cannot control your temper when you have little power, gaining more power will not automatically fix the problem. It may simply give your mistakes larger consequences. So, before you build the business, the reputation, the following, or the empire, build the foundation inside yourself. Learn to pause when angry. Learn to think when provoked. Learn to hear criticism without immediately defending your ego. Learn to choose calculation over revenge. Because ambition determines how high you want to climb. Self-control determines whether you can survive once you get there. And this becomes even more dangerous after your first real success. Because struggle keeps you alert. Success can make you comfortable. And when comfort replaces discipline, the very thing that helped you rise can begin to disappear. The climb is not the final test. The moment you start winning is. Struggle forces you to pay attention. When you have little, every decision matters. You check things twice. You question people. You notice risks because you cannot afford not to. But success creates a different danger. Comfort slowly convinces you that the danger is gone. At first, success feels like proof that you finally figured everything out. Deals become easier. People respect you more. Opportunities appear with less effort. And then the habits that helped you rise begin to disappear. You stop checking as carefully. You stop questioning decisions. You assume yesterday's position will still be yours tomorrow. That is how many collapses begin, not with one dramatic mistake, but with a gradual loss of vigilance. Machiavelli's warning is simple. Never confuse comfort with safety. The fact that things are working does not mean they will continue working. Conditions change. Competitors adapt. New threats appear. People around you change as your position changes. The strategy that created your success may not be enough to protect it. The most dangerous moment can therefore be the first period after a major win. You finally relax because you believe the hardest part is over. But the game has not ended. You have simply entered a different stage of it. When you were struggling, you were watching everything. After success, you may start assuming everything. That difference can destroy you. The disciplined person treats a victory as a checkpoint, not a finish line. They ask, what could take this away? Not because they are paranoid, but because success itself creates new vulnerabilities. The people who last are not necessarily the ones who never make mistakes. They are the ones who keep looking for weaknesses before someone else finds them. So keep the habits that made you successful after success arrives. Keep questioning, keep checking, keep learning, keep listening to uncomfortable information. Do not let praise replace judgment. Do not let money replace discipline. Do not let yesterday's victory convince you that tomorrow is guaranteed. Because success changes your environment. And when your environment changes, your strategy must remain capable of changing with it. Winning once proves that you can win. Staying alert proves that you understand what winning actually costs. And there is another reason to stay alert. The moment your success becomes visible, the people around you begin changing too. Some become quieter. Some become closer. Some become strangely interested. And some simply watch. The way they behave after you start rising may tell you more about them than everything they said while you were still struggling. Success does something money cannot buy. It changes how people see you. When you have little, most people have no reason to calculate what your position could mean for them. But once you start rising, their behavior can change. Some become distant. Some suddenly become warmer. Others say almost nothing and simply watch. Machiavelli understood that this shift could reveal more about a person than years of conversation ever could. Pay attention to the person who was comfortable with you when you had nothing but becomes noticeably colder once your success is visible. They may not attack you. They may not say anything negative. They simply become less enthusiastic, slower to respond, less interested in your progress. That change is information. It does not automatically make them an enemy, but it tells you something about how they feel when your position improves. Then there is the opposite reaction. Someone who suddenly appears everywhere once you start winning. They become more available, more complimentary, more interested in what you are doing. Some of that attention may be genuine, but timing matters. If closeness only appears after your success, you should ask whether they are drawn to you or to what your success can now provide. And then there are the quiet observers. They neither celebrate nor distance themselves, they simply watch. Their silence may mean nothing, or it may mean they are calculating where you now fit into their world. You cannot always know immediately, which is precisely why observation matters more than assumptions. The mistake is judging people only by what they say. People can congratulate you while resenting you. They can praise you while calculating what they can gain. They can claim loyalty while waiting for the right opportunity. But behavior under changing circumstances is harder to fake consistently. This is why your rise becomes a test. When you had nothing, loyalty was cheap to demonstrate because there was little to gain. Once you have something valuable, the relationship changes. Now people have more reasons to want access, more reasons to compare themselves with you, and sometimes more reasons to see you as a threat. Do not become paranoid because of this. Machiavelli's lesson is not that everyone secretly wants you to fail. It is that you should pay attention when circumstances change. Do not automatically trust someone more simply because they have become unusually friendly. Do not automatically reject someone because they have become distant. Watch the pattern. Who remains consistent? Who only appears when there is something to gain? Who can celebrate your success without turning it into a comparison? Who tells you the truth when everyone else is praising you? Who treats you exactly the same whether you are winning or struggling? Those people are telling you something important without saying it directly. Your success is not only producing money or influence, it is producing information about the people around you. And that information becomes extremely valuable as your position grows. Because the people around you are not just friends or colleagues, they can become your protection, your weakness, your reputation, or your blind spot. That leads to the next decision. Once you see how people react to your rise, you must become far more selective about who gets close enough to influence what you build. Once you understand how success changes people's behavior, the next question becomes unavoidable. Who deserves to stand close to you? Machiavelli understood that the strength of a ruler was not determined only by his own decisions. It was also determined by the quality of the people around him, because those people control what information reaches him, what warnings he hears, and which dangers remain hidden. The easiest mistake is choosing your inner circle based on comfort. You keep people close because they are familiar, agreeable, or make you feel good, but comfort is not the same as value. Someone who always tells you what you want to hear may feel like a loyal friend, while quietly becoming one of your greatest weaknesses. This is why flatterers are dangerous. A flatterer does not have to attack you. They only need to stop telling you the truth. When you make a bad decision, they agree. When your ego gets too large, they reinforce it. When you are walking toward a mistake, they smile instead of warning you. By the time reality proves them wrong, the damage has already happened. The person you need is not someone who criticizes everything you do. You need someone who cares enough about your long-term position to tell you an uncomfortable truth when necessary. Someone who can say, "You're wrong," before everyone else begins paying for your mistake. That kind of loyalty is worth more than constant agreement. There is also an important distinction between usefulness and trust. Someone may have connections, skills, money, or access that make them valuable to you, but usefulness does not automatically mean loyalty. Their behavior may change when the incentives change. Another person may offer less obvious value, but remain dependable when circumstances become difficult. You need to know which is which. Not everyone should receive the same level of access to your plans, weaknesses, resources, or decisions. Trust should be based on evidence, not familiarity. Someone being around you for 10 years does not automatically make them trustworthy. Someone being useful today does not guarantee they will remain loyal tomorrow. Watch what people do when there is something to lose. Watch how they behave when you disagree. Watch whether they can tell you the truth when the truth makes you uncomfortable. Watch whether they protect your interests when there is no reward for doing so. These moments reveal character far better than compliments. Your circle is not simply your social environment. It becomes part of your decision-making system. The right people expand your awareness. The wrong people create blind spots. The right person can warn you before a small problem becomes a disaster. The wrong person can make you feel completely safe while the danger grows unnoticed. That is why choosing people carefully does not mean trusting nobody. It means trusting selectively. Give people responsibilities according to what they have proven. Give access according to trust. Give influence according to judgment. And never confuse someone's ability to make you comfortable with their ability to protect what you are building. Because an empire rarely collapses only because the person at the top lacks intelligence. Sometimes it collapses because the wrong people were allowed close enough to hide the truth. Build your circle with people who strengthen your judgment, not people who protect your ego. And even with the right people around you, there is one more mistake you must avoid: showing everyone exactly what you are capable of. One of the easiest mistakes to make when you start succeeding is believing that you need to show everyone how capable you are. You want people to know your skills, your resources, your connections, your plans, and everything you are capable of doing. It feels like confidence. But Machiavelli's warning is the opposite. Your full capability is an asset, and an asset should not be exposed without reason. Think about what happens when someone knows exactly what you can do. They know your strengths, they know your limits, they know your resources, they know what you are likely to do next. That information makes you easier to prepare for. They can build around your strengths, defend against your strategies, and recognize your limits before you ever have to reveal them. But when people do not know your full capacity, they have to calculate. They have to wonder. They have to leave room for possibilities. That uncertainty can work in your favor. This does not mean lying or pretending to be weaker than you are. It means controlling what you reveal, when you reveal it, and who actually needs to know. You do not need to announce every move before making it. You do not need to display every skill simply to prove that you possess it. And you certainly do not need to explain your entire strategy to people who have no role in executing it. Results can speak for you. There is also a psychological advantage to restraint. When someone constantly displays everything they can do, people eventually become comfortable with them. Their capabilities become predictable. But when someone consistently produces results without revealing everything behind those results, others remain more cautious. They know there may be more beneath the surface than they can see. That does not mean becoming secretive with everyone. Some relationships require transparency. Your trusted partners may need complete information. Your team may need clarity. People responsible for important decisions cannot operate on incomplete information. The principle is simply this: not everyone deserves full access. Your abilities are yours. Your resources are yours. Your plans are yours. Your next move is yours. Give people the information necessary for their role, not unlimited access simply because they ask. This becomes especially important when you are rising. The more visible you become, the more people will study you. Some want to learn from you. Some want to compete with you. Some want to benefit from what you have built. And some may be waiting for you to reveal a weakness they can use. If you show everything, you remove uncertainty. If you reveal selectively, you preserve flexibility. And flexibility is power. You may change your strategy. You may change your direction. You may have capabilities that nobody has seen yet. You may choose not to respond even when people expect you to. That unpredictability makes it harder for others to plan around you. But there is an even deeper reason for restraint. You do not need to prove your strength constantly. People who are desperate to demonstrate power often reveal more than they intended. They talk about what they know. They explain what they can do. They announce their next move. They show everyone how important they are. Then everyone knows exactly where they stand. Real confidence does not require constant demonstration. You can let the result appear when the time is right. You can allow people to underestimate you if their misunderstanding does not hurt your objective. You can keep a capability private until it becomes useful. And you can refuse to turn every conversation into a performance. Because the moment your entire capability becomes visible, it becomes easier to measure, predict, and counter. Keep part of yourself unexposed. Not because you are afraid, because information has value and you should decide who receives it. And as your success becomes more visible, another reality becomes harder to avoid. Some people will not simply underestimate you or compete with you. They will resent your rise. You may never have attacked them. You may never have harmed them. Your success alone may be enough to make them uncomfortable. And if you do not understand why that happens, you may take their resistance personally instead of preparing for it. Success creates visibility. Visibility creates comparison, and comparison can create enemies. You do not have to harm someone to become a threat to them. Sometimes simply rising is enough. The moment your success becomes visible, people begin comparing their position with yours, and not everyone responds to that comparison with admiration. Some use your progress as motivation. Others experience it as a reminder of what they believe they have not achieved. Machiavelli understood that this friction is often a natural consequence of becoming more visible. That is an uncomfortable truth because it can feel unfair. You worked for what you built. You did not attack anyone. You did not ask them to remain behind. Yet someone may still become resentful because your success changes the comparison between you. Their reaction may not be obvious at first. It can appear as subtle distancing, gossip, resistance, or criticism disguised as concern. Sometimes it is direct. Sometimes it is almost invisible. But the important lesson is not to become suspicious of everyone. It is to stop being surprised that visibility creates friction. The higher you climb, the more people can see you. And the more visible you become, the more opinions you attract. Some people will celebrate your success. Some will ignore it. Some will question it. Some will look for weaknesses. That does not automatically mean they are enemies, but it does mean you should understand the environment you are entering. Machiavelli's perspective is useful here because it removes the emotional shock. If you assume everyone will be happy when you succeed, opposition feels personal. If you understand that success can naturally create comparison, resistance becomes something you can prepare for. This also changes how you respond to criticism. Not every critic is jealous. Not every disagreement is sabotage. Not every person who dislikes you is secretly trying to destroy you. But not every criticism deserves your attention either. The mistake is allowing either extreme to control you, believing everyone is an enemy, or believing nobody could possibly become one. Stay observant. Look for patterns. If someone repeatedly tries to undermine you, pay attention. If someone consistently spreads information that damages your position, pay attention. If someone celebrates your failure more than your success, pay attention. But do not waste your energy trying to convince every person to like you. That is impossible. The more visible you become, the more people will interpret your actions through their own perspective. Some will be inspired, others will compare themselves, others will simply look for an opportunity. Your responsibility is not to control their feelings. Your responsibility is to protect what you are building. That means keeping your circle strong, your information controlled, and your emotions disciplined. The earlier lessons now become practical. If you react emotionally to every attack, people can manipulate you through provocation. If you reveal everything, you give competitors unnecessary information. If you trust everyone, you give the wrong people access. If you become careless after success, you may not notice the threat until it is already inside your structure. So expect resistance without becoming paranoid. Expect scrutiny without becoming insecure. Expect comparison without shrinking yourself. And most importantly, do not reduce your ambition simply because someone else is uncomfortable with your progress. The goal is not to become invisible again. The goal is to become strong enough to remain visible without allowing other people's reactions to determine your direction. Because there is another danger waiting beyond enemies and opposition, you can protect yourself from competitors, choose your circle carefully, and control what you reveal and still build something fragile. Why? Because if everything depends on you personally, then your greatest vulnerability is still yourself. If every decision needs your approval, every relationship depends on your presence, and every system stops when you step away, you have not built an empire. You have built a role that only you can perform, and the moment you are gone, it begins to collapse. That is why the final measure of power is not how much depends on you, but how much can continue without you. Most ambitious people make the same mistake when they begin to succeed. They build everything around themselves. Every decision needs their approval. Every important relationship depends on them. Every problem eventually reaches their desk. Every system works because they are constantly pushing it forward. At first, this feels like control. In reality, it can be a hidden weakness. If everything stops when you step away, then your power is not really inside the system. You are the system. That may work when you are small, but it becomes a ceiling when you grow. You can only make so many decisions. You can only maintain so many relationships. You can only work so many hours. And if every part of what you built depends on your personal attention, growth eventually becomes impossible. Machiavelli's deeper lesson is that lasting power comes from structure, not constant personal control. A strong ruler does not simply command people. He builds systems, develops capable people, and creates an organization that can continue functioning without his presence at every moment. This requires something ambitious people often struggle with: letting go. You trained someone, but they now need to make decisions without you. You built a process, but you have to trust it instead of checking every detail. You developed a team, but they must eventually operate without your constant intervention. That can feel like losing control. It is actually the beginning of leverage. There is a difference between being important and being necessary for every single action. If you are important, your leadership creates direction. If you are necessary for everything, your presence becomes a bottleneck. The first multiplies, the second limits. That is why training people is not simply an HR responsibility. It is part of building power that lasts. If nobody can perform without you, then you have created dependence rather than strength. But if capable people understand the mission, the standards, and the systems well enough to continue without you, then your work has become larger than your personal effort. The same applies to processes. If you solve the same problem every day, you may be working hard without building anything that scales. If you create a process that solves the problem repeatedly, you have transformed effort into structure. That is the shift from doing everything to building something that does not require you to do everything. And this is where many people struggle after reaching success. The habits that help them climb personal control, constant involvement, making every decision themselves, can become the habits that prevent the next level of growth. You cannot build something that lasts if you refuse to let it operate without you. Think about what happens when the founder disappears. If the business immediately becomes confused, decisions stop, employees wait, customers suffer, and everything falls apart, then the founder did not create an enduring structure. They created a job with a large title. But if the system continues, people know what to do, decisions still get made, and the mission remains clear, then something much more valuable has been created. You built an organization, not just a position. That is the difference between temporary success and lasting power. And it requires humility. You must accept that someone else may eventually do a task better than you. You must allow people to make decisions. You must document what works. You must create standards that do not depend on your mood. You must build relationships that can survive beyond your personal involvement. None of this makes you less powerful. It makes your power transferable. And transferable power is more durable than personal control. The strongest structures in history were never sustained because one individual remained at the center forever. The individual eventually stepped away, disappeared, or died. What remained was the structure they had built. That is the real test. Not whether people need you today, but whether what you created still has value when you are no longer there to hold it together. So if everything you are building currently depends on you, do not be proud of that dependence. Fix it. Build systems. Train people. Create standards. Transfer knowledge. Remove unnecessary dependence on your presence. Your goal should not be to make yourself impossible to replace. Your goal should be to make what you built difficult to destroy. Because eventually, the question will not be how high you manage to climb. It will be whether anything remains standing after you step away from the center. And that is where the final lesson becomes clear. An empire is not measured by how much power you personally hold, but by how much strength continues to exist without you. The final question is not how high you can rise. It is whether what you built can survive after you step away from it. That is the difference between temporary success and lasting power. A structure that depends entirely on one person may look impressive while that person is present, but the moment they disappear, everything begins to weaken. A lasting empire is different. It has systems, capable people, clear standards, and enough structure to continue without its founder holding every piece together. This is where ambition has to evolve. In the beginning, your personal effort may be the reason everything works. You make the decisions, solve the problems, build the relationships, and push through every obstacle. That intensity can help you rise. But if you never move beyond it, your own involvement becomes the limit of what you can build. You cannot personally control everything forever. You cannot make every decision, manage every relationship, and solve every problem indefinitely. Eventually, the thing that made you successful becomes the thing preventing your success from becoming durable. So, stop measuring strength by how much depends on you. Measure it by how much can continue without you. Can your team make decisions without waiting for you? Can your systems produce consistent results without your constant supervision? Can the people you trained carry your standards forward? Can the relationships you built survive when you are no longer personally managing them? If the answer is no, then you have built dependence, not durability. Machiavelli's warning is ultimately about this distinction. A ruler who creates capable people and strong systems leaves behind something that can continue. A ruler who builds everything around personal control leaves behind chaos when that control disappears. That requires humility because you must eventually accept that other people need to become capable enough to operate without you. You cannot insist that everything pass through your hands and still expect the structure to grow indefinitely. You have to teach people, document processes, create standards, give responsibility, let others make decisions, allow the system to become stronger than your individual effort. At first, this may feel like giving away power. It is actually multiplying power. If only you know how something works, your knowledge has one point of impact. If you teach 10 capable people, that knowledge can operate in 10 places. If you build a process that repeatedly produces the result, you no longer need to personally recreate that result every day. That is leverage. And leverage is what turns personal effort into something that can survive time. Look at anything that has truly lasted. It was never sustained because one person remained at the center forever. The person eventually stepped away, faded from public attention, or disappeared completely. What remained was the structure, the culture, the systems, and the people capable of carrying the work forward. That is the standard you should aim for. Do not build a business that needs you every minute. Build a business that understands your principles even when you are absent. Do not build a reputation that depends entirely on your personal presence. Build work strong enough to speak for you. Do not build relationships based entirely on your involvement. Build trust that can survive distance. And do not build an identity around being the person who controls everything. Build something strong enough that you can eventually step away from the center without watching it collapse. Because there is a final irony in power. The person who must constantly prove that everything depends on them may possess less real power than the person who can disappear for a while and return to find the structure still standing. That is the difference between being indispensable and being influential. Indispensability creates dependence. Influence creates continuity. And continuity is what turns success into legacy. The 7 warnings in this video therefore form one system. First, control yourself, because an uncontrolled mind can destroy what ambition builds. Then, stay disciplined after success, because comfort can make you blind to new dangers. Watch how people behave when you rise, because success reveals relationships that struggle may have hidden. Choose your circle carefully, because the wrong people can become your greatest vulnerability. Do not reveal every capability, because unnecessary exposure makes you easier to predict. Expect resistance, because visibility naturally creates scrutiny and comparison. And finally, build systems and people strong enough to continue without you. None of this means becoming paranoid, isolated, or ruthless. It means understanding that success changes the environment around you. More money creates more incentives. More influence creates more attention. More visibility creates more opinions. More power creates more people who have reasons to study what you do. So prepare before you arrive there. Do not wait until people begin watching you to learn discipline. Do not wait until success makes you comfortable to remember vigilance. Do not wait until your circle becomes complicated to learn who deserves your trust. Do not wait until someone uses your information against you to understand the value of discretion. And do not wait until everything depends on you to begin building systems. Build for the future while you are still climbing, because the climb is only the beginning. The real test starts when people notice you. The real test is whether you can remain disciplined when life becomes easier, whether you can stay rational when people begin reacting to your success, whether you can protect your position without becoming consumed by fear, and whether you can create something that remains valuable after your personal involvement becomes unnecessary. That is what separates a temporary victory from a lasting empire. Anyone can build something that works while they are pushing it every day. The harder achievement is building something that continues working when you stop pushing. So before you ask how powerful you can become, ask a more important question. What will still exist when I am no longer standing at the center of it? If the answer is nothing, you are still building yourself into the system. If the answer is a capable team, strong processes, trusted relationships, valuable work, and a structure that can continue without you, then you are building something much larger than yourself. That is the real warning hidden inside Machiavelli's lessons. Do not simply build an empire that proves you were powerful. Build one that proves your power created something capable of lasting.